What is up, you guys? Teller checking in for the recap of The Ultimate Fighter 31. Specifically in this video, we're going to be talking about the two tournament championship fights in the Bantamweight and Lightweight divisions. Of course, in the Bantamweight division, we have Cody Gibson taking on Brad Katona to see who's going to be the Ultimate Fighter winner there. And then we have Austin Hubbard taking on Holobaugh in the lightweight bracket there. Of course, and both of these fights are taking place on UFC 292, which is a very stacked card taking place this weekend. And not only will I dissect those fights and give you my predictions on how those fights are going to go, I will briefly touch upon the season and just how I felt about it, and just a couple things of that nature there. So we are going to be jumping into this matchup here, Brad Katona versus Cody Gibson first and foremost. If you guys could, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, catch me on all my social media. It's all scrolling below. And with no further ado, let's jump into this fight.
Welcome to the show. This the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
So Brad Katona will be fighting to become a two-time Ultimate Fighter winner. Of course, he won it a while ago. He fought in the UFC, like as did all the veterans, and was released at one point in time. He's still only 31 years old, though he has a lot to give to the game, if you ask me. He's a very fine-tuned fighter. If I'm letting you guys know my opinion on him, as I was watching the season, I really wanted to see him lose, and I wanted to see him get his face smashed in. I'm not a fan of his personality. I can't stand dudes that are of his nature, if you will. It's just not my kind of guy. And but as far as his fighting skills go, he is very sharp, very professional. And, he kind of reminds me of another fighter that's fighting on the same card here, and Ian Gary. I won't go on about it too much, but Ian Gary is another fighter that is very talented. The ceiling on him is extremely high, but I cannot stand him. And I do want to see him get his face smashed in as well sooner or later. And I don't know if Neil Magny is going to be that guy. And, if you saw some of the comments that Ian Gary had about what Neil Magny said at the press conference, you guys can go check that out, about him saying he was going to whoop him like he would, to teach him a lesson, as like he would whoop your son or something like that, and kind of twisting it. And he's soft. And I don't like Ian Gary. Just wanted to get that out of my system real quick. I feel a little bit better about that now. But Brad Katona, back to him, and like I said, a very, very fine-tuned fighter. He's going to be coming into this fight here with a little bit of a reach disadvantage, and that's nothing really new for Katona. He's been in those types of fights before, has very good footwork, he's very active, comes in phenomenal shape, great cardio, and his grappling is definitely his strong suit, but he could push the volume on you as well with the striking. Now, Cody Gibson, you guys know he has that wrestling background, good jiu-jitsu, and we saw him use that to pull off the victory in that last fight there, as he took out the last member fighting under Conor McGregor's team there. And of course they don't show it here, but Sciula, the Italian kid there. I can't stand how they don't show the fights here on Tapology either. Obviously those should be professional fights. I mean, those are legitimate fights. But you guys know who I'm talking about there. I am talking about Rico Di Sciula, who is a talented striker. I'll tell you what, in that fight where Cody Gibson eventually snatched up the back and just used his grappling to dominate that fight, pulled off the arm triangle choke, Rico looked actually pretty good in the beginning of that fight. As long as it was lasting, Rico was teeing off on Cody. I really didn't like Cody's body language in there. And I'm not going to say I'm 100% in agreement with what Rico and Conor were saying, as if, he slipped and then that just cost him the fight and he would have went out there and dominated the fight. I mean, we would have really had to have seen how that would have played out. But I would agree with them in the sense that Cody's body language did not look good early on in that fight. He was getting landed on and he just didn't seem like he was really in it. But maybe he was just playing possum and waiting to set up a shot where he knew that his grappling is where he was going to take over the fight. So, you really can't just assume that. But I do believe that Cody Gibson's grappling is definitely his strength. And I don't really like how that matches up with a guy like Brad Katona, because Brad Katona is very fine-tuned there. And I just think that Brad Katona is going to be the more well-rounded fighter here. I think that Brad Katona will get the better of those striking exchanges. I think he can emulate some of what Rico was doing early in that fight as well. I could see Brad Katona kind of landing some volume type of shots on Cody. And I could see Brad avoiding getting his back taken or getting dominated down in the mat, which is why I am leaning towards Brad Katona getting the job done here, as I am definitely leaning towards Ian Gary showing up in a major way against Neil Magny. So love him or hate him, good fighters, and I think that Brad Katona gets the job done here. And real quick, just to take note of his career, I mean, Katona has only lost 2 fights in his career. One against potentially the best fighter in the bantamweight division in the world, potentially, and Merab Dvalishvili. I mean, the grappling and the cardio that he puts on right now on his opponents is second to none. And I don't know, man, who's beating him. I think I would take him over Sterling, O'Malley. I mean, we could talk about some of the other guys coming through the ranks, like Nurmagomedov, etc. But right now, Merab's a beast. The Hunter Azure was the lone fight where he was off. He was definitely off that day. But other than that, he's went out there taking out guys like Bryce Mitchell, Kyler Phillips back in the day. He went over to Brave and had a couple victories over there as well. And this guy doesn't lose very often, and I do not see him losing against Cody Gibson, to be quite honest with you guys, even though Cody's a very tough fighter. Check this out. On Bovada.lv, Brad Katona opened up as a -80. Remember, these betting odds just came out because we just saw the winner this week, right? So we finally knew who was going to be facing off against each other. Katona opened up as a -180, and we see action going the other way on Cody Gibson. So Katona is now a -174. Let's take a look over here. Brad Katona opened up as a -185. It's stayed the same on my bookie. Let's see what else we could see here. If you guys can see this with me, Katona opened up as a -180. Oh, this is Bovada. We already did this. Excuse me. Let's take a look at him over here. If you guys could see this on DraftKings, he opened as a -185 and is now a -166. So we are consistently seeing action coming in on Cody Gibson. And I think that people are potentially seeing the size and the grappling strengths of Gibson, being able to keep him in this fight and whatnot. Maybe that reach advantage, maybe they think he can kind of land from the outside. I don't see it. I would say if you're able to get Brad Katona anywhere from -180 down, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I mean, that line is available. He's 185 in my bookie. I mean, you might be pushing it towards the -190, 200 range, but I don't have a problem with the even 185 and down, which you can basically grab anywhere right now. And the way that the line's moving, the trajectory is showing that you might even get better value there. So maybe you wait, and if you see it start to go back up, then you jump on Katona immediately. I kind of like Katona here, to be quite honest. I think that he gets the job done and becomes the Ultimate Fighter winner once again. All right. Then up in the lightweight division, we have Kurt Holobaugh taking on Austin Hubbard. Kurt Holobaugh, 36 years old, a little bit more up in age than Austin Hubbard, who is 31, who you guys know I feel still has a lot to give to the game. As I just mentioned, Katona being 31 years old. I mean, that's a very prime age. But Kurt Holobaugh has a world of experience. He's a fighter that has 27 pro fights, and let's take a look at some of his losses. So you guys kind of understand what his situation was going even into the show. Losses to a prime Raoni Barcelos, which if you guys remember, a prime Raoni Barcelos, he was a beast, man. If you guys have been watching him as of recently, I know if you're newer to watching these fights, understand that Barcelos was a different animal back in 2018. He got knocked out by him in the 3rd round, lost to Shane Burgos. The Hurricane is a beast. And then he lost to Thiago Moises, one of the more talented fighters in the division, a very, very talented Thiago Moises. Other than that, though, victories over Jay-Z Cavalcante, if you guys remember him, big fighter back in Strikeforce back in the day. Victories over guys like Desmond Green. Look at the losses too. All high caliber losses. If you guys remember Andre Harrison, the Bull, Andre Harrison, he was a beast back in the day as well. A fighter that was on a ridiculous win streak. Lost to Kaz Bruliov. This guy has a very respectable resume. Lost a decision to him. Beat the Pink Panther. Yos Denis Cedeno. Excuse me there if you guys remember him. The point I'm making is that you take a look at the losses, and he lost to some of the finer fighters in the game. Kurt Holobaugh looked phenomenal on the show. He looked like his head is completely in it. I had some insight. I put some puzzle pieces together, and actually, you guys remember, if you guys were watching my episodes, I said Kurt Holobaugh, keep an eye on him, right? That he potentially pushed it all the way to the end, so kind of had a little some intuition there, if you guys will, that he was going to make it to the end, man. But everything I'm hearing, he's super, super motivated to go out here and take this Ultimate Fighter, win, if you would, And I think that he looked phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal in that last fight where he went out there and smashed Jason Knight, right? Got the TKO finish. I thought he looked so good in that fight. He looked so well rounded, and Austin Hubbard is a very very well-rounded fighter as well. Austin Hubbard is a good striker. I think that this is a very evenly matched fight to an extent. I think both these guys are very well-rounded. But from what I saw from Kurt Holobaugh in that last fight, I believe that he has the momentum rolling into this fight. Austin Hubbard looked very good, too, against Roosevelt Roberts. That was a fight that could potentially have gone either way. And Austin Hubbard was bloodied up. He was tagged in that fight. I could see him getting hit with some big shots on the feet in this fight. And I kind of lean towards Holobaugh if it goes down to the mat as well. Holobaugh's he's an absolute tank. And I am leaning Kurt Holobaugh to snag the lightweight Ultimate Fighter win for the tournament. And I am taking Kurt Holobaugh. Let's go take a look at the odds for this fight. On Bovada.lv, Kurt Holobaugh opened as a plus 150. Was a plus 160 for a moment of time. This was actually just a couple days ago now too, as soon as the show ended. He has been dipping around, moving, jumping up and down, settled as like a plus 140 there for a little bit, and is now again a plus 150. That line surprises me. It does. It surprises me. I don't understand how he is a plus 150 dog against Austin Hubbard. I think people are really holding Austin Hubbard up very highly. I know he's a young fighter, very well-rounded. He's a dangerous guy, but don't disrespect Kurt Holobaugh right now. He is extremely motivated, and he has all the tools to hang in this fight. This is a very close fight. I say Kurt Holobaugh takes out Austin Hubbard there. So obviously I like the value on his line, and ran into one of my Ultimate Fighter Season 31 coaches in Robert Drysdale at the IBJJF American Nationals. If you guys aren't familiar with Robert Drysdale, he's a fighter that I'm very disappointed never really settled in to the game of MMA. He dabbled with MMA a little bit, got popped for some performance-enhancing drugs and whatnot, but one of the best BJJ players that we've ever seen. And Kurt Holobaugh is a stud as well. So I am leaning Kurt Holobaugh. Okay, so that's going to be my pick there for the lightweight winner. All right, guys. So before we part ways, I want to briefly recap the season. It was a little bit of a weird one. I think partly due to some of the antics that Conor McGregor's doing outside the cage, and just not really knowing if he's really going to fight with Michael Chandler, as he hasn't really started the drug testing and whatnot. There's all these question marks. They say this fight's happening. He has the stuff going on at the Miami Heat Arena. You don't know what's going to happen with that. I think it would have made this season a lot better if we had a date for this fight and we knew it was coming 100%, and Conor McGregor maybe took things a little bit more seriously. But towards the end of the show, we did see him, really bonding with the fighters, and you saw the fighters paying a lot of respect to him. And Conor's Conor. He is what he is, and you guys know I'm a giant fan of his, but I do wish he did some things differently. But it was what it was, and I do feel that this season could have played out a little bit better, and I hope that we have the Ultimate Fighter back in the future. I won't say I'm as hopeful as I've been in the past. I don't know, man. I'm starting to backpedal a little bit on the show, but I do hope that they give it one more try. I hope they do it with two young, motivated coaches that really, really have some disdain for each other, and I want to see some of that playing out into the show. I want to see some real beef. I want to see some real competitiveness. I want to see where they're barely able to stand next to each other. I like those types of seasons where there's some real drama going on, and I didn't have a problem with the format as far as the fighters went on this, but I want to see one where we have maybe a shallow division, get a bunch of top prospects instead of putting them in Dana White's Contender Series, throw them on the show, and let's see that play out. And I don't even say that with a lot of, what would you say? I'm not like super in on that, to be honest with you. I would kind of like to see that, but I'm not really ripping the chain for that, if you will. You know what I'm saying? It's just, if it happens, it happens. If they don't ever do the Ultimate Fighter again, I'll be quite honest with you guys. It is what it is, because I'm really, really digging the way Dana White's Contender Series is going down these days. I'm loving that show. So if you guys saw this last week's episode, it was awesome. But all right, guys, I won't rant too much. I got some other content I want to get out to you guys. Make sure you're checking me out on Instagram, because I got this new app, and I'm really going to be putting out some fire content to you guys now. Wait till you see what I'm putting out on Instagram. Been doing some research. I got a new setup, and the videos are going to be coming out daily, and the format of them is going to be dope. Got the green screen and all that going behind the Instagram videos. They're going to be sick. So please go check me out there at MMA Fortune Teller _. And I'm always on Twitter chirping it up at the MMA Teller. All right. Thank you guys so much. Signing out. Teller.
Welcome to the show. This the MMA Fortune Teller. Yeah.
The MMA Fortune Teller.
The teller.